time is now.
Well, that's we've got two watching, so we should be somewhere. I don't know where though, because it says
I've
the
got
recording.
no idea, because this is I've tried to go on it, and it's saying
live.
This
It's
is
live.
private.
Apparently, we're live, according to Chris, who's talking in my head. Welcome, one and all. We've only got two watching though, Chris. It's not fair.
And
just keep going. We'll do with it. Hey, listen, guys. Sorry out there in Viewerland. We've had nothing but issues with.
Hello.
Hi, we're Big Yinks. Can you hear us, mate? He's having problems with his headphones. We're having problems with the setup. YouTube just didn't allow us to do anything. So it's crazy start to tonight's show. Welcome one and all to NUFC Talk TV. Apologies for the short delay, and obviously massive apologies for the setup and confusion, because we were doing this before and it just didn't happen. We were talking to ourselves in the wilderness somewhere else. So we've got Monty Wing, we've got Boki, we've got Big Yinks, like I say, who's having major issues with his headphones. But we'll get there. I'm sure we'll get there. But before we get into tonight's show, I suppose we better get on with the housework and do what we always do. So welcome to everybody watching across all the platforms. Thanks to everybody that works in the background. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoy the show. It's been majorly important and you've done amazing so far. So continue to do that for us. It just helps us get further to other supporters. Subscribe, totally free. Hit the bell for future content. If you want to support us, you can become a member. 2 levels to choose from. You take your choice. If you've got a question for any of the panel, then try and put a Q in front of the question. It just helps us ID it in the chat. Not guaranteed, by the way. So if you want to guarantee it, you can use the $, throw us a Talk TV super chat. And that will guarantee that message read out. Anybody that becomes a member during the show, or any of our beautiful members that gift them, will be highlighted and thanked as we go on. And there is an opportunity, if you still want to jump on board with the Prediction League, £5 entry fee, and that just gives you a chance to predict all of Newcastle's results. Very difficult, to be fair. Very few get it right. Sean, bless him, got it right yesterday.
You only won yesterday.
Got the 4-1 out of how many's there? 37.
37, yeah.
Yeah, 37 in the league. So, like I say, if you still want to, still loads of time to catch up. I think at this present moment in time, there's 15 points is the max we've got after 5 league games and a cup game. That right? And two cup games. So yeah, not doing brilliant if I'm honest with you, but it's, like I say, it's very difficult. Gentlemen, how are we this evening? Are we good? Happy about the result yesterday?
Sweet.
Cool.
Yeah.
Andy, you good, man?
Good result, yeah.
Yeah, happy. Good. We didn't get your takes, obviously, on yesterday's game. So just before we get into the news tonight, just wanted to give you guys the heads up, just to give your views on what you saw, your player type of thing. If there's somebody that shone for you guys. Andy, give us yours first, matey.
Yeah, but good game. Good result. I think Chow had quite a good game for me. I think he was probably him and Botman at the back looked pretty solid.
Yeah. Was it your highlight? Well, I mean, the goal was just one of them, wasn't it?
It was.
Nothing you could do. I mean, like I said, I shouted handball. I was having terrible trouble with my computer last night. I had to jump out from the live watch along, and luckily I had it on the background, so I managed just to get my head round the corner just as Marley was trying to clear the ball, and you just think, oh no.
Well, he wasn't even trying to clear it, was he? He was trying to pass it.
Yeah, and he was trying to be positive, but these are the little things, the dangerous areas that he has to learn.
But I admit that was one of the occasions of the many that I ran downstairs to watch the replay. And the reason I did that was because there was numerous Newcastle players appealing for they're going handball, and I said, whoa, maybe he haven't scored, ran down, but there was no handball there. Straight up his napper.
Yeah. So you enjoyed it though, mate. It was against Bradford. Well, I suppose we can't get too high.
That's
Correct.
just what I was going to say about him. I think it's a good starting point, hopefully, for the season. But it's I don't think it papers over all the cracks as yet. We need to see how we'll get on in the Premier League.
No, but it was nice to see some of the lads get a run out, wasn't it?
100%. And hopefully some of them players are now starting to get into the first team.
Absolutely. And for me, you could see the difference with Chow and the relationship with Botman. That doesn't mean that we close the door on any other player. And I think that is what you've got to remember. The beauty for me now is you've got players knocking on the door of equal, if not better quality in certain areas.
He's got options, basically, hasn't he?
That is the headache, isn't it? It's what sits and what suits the system that Eddie wants to do on the day. Big Yinks, your thoughts, matey?
Sure. No, I was quite delighted to see Osula get off the mark. Thought Bruno played well. Thought Joelinton played well. My personal favourite aspect of the game was probably the third goal for Joelinton. Just how the combination play of seeing Bruno make that run, the ball getting to him holding it up, while Tomada going outside and bringing the defender, which enabled Joelinton to have that much space. Hopefully we see more of that this season, because I think that's going to enable us to score a lot more goals. That was definitely my highlight. I think we've got problems out wide, but I think that's a conversation for another day.
Absolutely, yeah. We all had a critique regarding the wide play and the amount of XG that they're just not creating. It's certainly something that we need to definitely look at. Well, Eddie Howe does, not us, but Eddie Howe needs to try and sort out what the problem is. But you're absolutely right. For me, and a lot of people don't see it, sometimes just to run, into space. And one of my criticisms of Osula, which I thought he did superbly well yesterday, if I'm honest with you, some of his movements away from that centre zone, where the defenders get quite easily to mark, because I call them yo-yo forwards. You don't have to move. He's going to come straight back at you. His movement yesterday, especially for his first goal, where he just literally used his body shape and allowed the passage of play. Great spot from Bruno, to be fair. I'm going to ask you two, lads, because obviously there was question marks who was man of the match. Now, obviously in the press, J7 got man of the match because of 2 goals, and I thought he contributed superbly well. I thought he took his goals absolutely fantastic, if I'm honest with you. It was J7, I was going to say J7 of old, but if it was J7 of old, he'd have missed.
You missed them.
But I mean, it was 2 really, really good goals. So who was your man of the match, Andy?
I think from what I've said, probably Chow. Give him a bit of confidence. I think he had a
good spot, mate. Yeah, I thought he had a good game. But Giggs, go on then. Give me your man of the match.
Man of the match. I think the way they ended up possibly would be a toss up between Joelinton and Bruno. I feel like Bruno ended the game really well. It wasn't the best player throughout the whole game, if I had to be honest, because I believe in the first half I'd give it to Miley. I thought Miley was one of our best players. But if we get the totality of the match, I'll say Bruno, just the way he ended it, a proper captain's performance.
Yeah, I gave it to Bruno because of some of those link-up plays. If you think the 2 assists, some of his movement from midfield really upset the apple cart when it come to the way they were. I mean, I could understand why the press has given it J7. I thought he was very influential. Again, light runs into the box, leaving himself open, didn't follow the ball type of thing. He just followed the space, if you like, and created that space for himself. And I know Win and Andy, I think, went for Miley again. I thought he, in a different role, 19-year-old kid learning the trade. He's not Tonali. That's what we've got to remember. He's never going to be Tonali. So there was a lot of pressure on his shoulders last night, and I thought he performed brilliantly. I mean, the most passes were throughout the 90 minutes in the team. So again, a lot of confidence from players around him to give him the ball. So I think that is the starting point for me. It's a case of, we know that lots of rumours saying that Tonali's been eagerly linked back to Serie A. And, I'm sure Rumours don't come without people talking. So you don't know whether...
I tell you, Ying's, remarked on it. The involvement of Voltamada in J7's goal, and I think that highlighted the need, if we're going to get the best out of Voltamada, other players have to get in front of him.
Yeah.
To enable him to put those clever little balls through. As I say, a mate of mine, Colin, he said, believe it or not, he reminds me of Peter Beardsley. The way he can, find those little balls through. But if there's nobody in advance of him, then they're going to be wasted. We're sort of taking that out of his armoury.
Yeah,
So we need to be doing that. And on the other hand, I would say he needs himself to get into that 6-yard box more than he does, because there was a couple of occasions where if he had been a yard further forward, he would have been there for to stick a ball away that came across. So it's a balancing. It's a learning curve. I say we've got to get through it. But I think
he's been too nice. I think he's too nice a guy, if I'm honest with you. From all the reports that I've seen, centre forward strikers sometimes have an arrogance about them. I mean, I don't know whether you saw...
And agreed.
Yeah, you saw Cook's interview afterwards when they were talking, because obviously he's from Durham, massive Newcastle fan, playing for Bradford, and obviously to score, and then obviously put his hands up, and they questioned whether he celebrated like Shearer, and he was like, no, I just couldn't believe it. For a minute, I had to stop and wait, and he says, and I was literally just waving to the Bradford fans because, as Wynne said, they were fantastic all evening. So, we were 3 down. To get that goal was, for him, the highlight of his career to a degree. Well worked. But again, you could just see when he was saying, not an arrogance, but a confidence type of player, playing at his level in League One. I think when I've listened to Voltamada, he seems to come across as like a little bit of a, happy go lucky type of guy, doesn't want to tread on people's toes. If that changes, I can see there being a lot of goals either through Voltamada. I think his XG on the A side of it could be through the roof come the end of the season. If, as Wynne says, we can get players running behind him, because he has a vision, Beardsley-esque, if you like, got great close control with his feet. And I just love that one touch give and go, the 5-yard pass that sometimes just turns the defender quickly,
Yeah,
so for me, shows it.
5-yard pass.
Yeah, absolutely. The one touch, get it out of your feet.
Not to get the ball, think about it and pass it, just to get the ball, pass it.
Yeah,
he's definitely a unicorn. He's definitely a unicorn in terms of, I think there's so much aspects to his games that they can develop on, and his natural ability just to be able to hold the ball and for it to stick, and his dribbling ability for someone that's 6'6".
Yeah.
Again, put him in particular positions is going to be phenomenal. And also, you can always add to his game. There's not much you can take away from him, because the ability to win balls in the air is going to be natural to him because he's 6'6". You can't teach that. There's so many aspects to him that you can't teach anymore. But there's some aspects that you can teach, and because Isak never came to us scoring 26 goals.
No,
he was very,
exactly.
very raw to a degree, but there was a lot of things that they've assisted to help him. And I feel like with Walter Martin, if they can actually make him, be 10 steps ahead forward, know when to drop, know when to stay up, know when to use your body, and increase his IQ in the football game, he's going to be unstoppable. Probably one of the best talents that we may have ever seen in football.
Yeah, I agree. There's certain aspects of his game. There's certain aspects of his game that must improve. I agree with you. But the trouble is with Isak. I mean, I think that's where he got a lot of people. I mean, remember, Isak was touted by Real Madrid and he turned them down. So when he was younger, So what you've got to remember is, at that point, there was a lot of people realised that this was a rough diamond with Isak.
Yeah.
Now, I already believe, people say about Peter Crouch with Voltamada, and I'm not sure whether that's a pat on the back or not, if I'm honest with you. I hope, as I've seen so far, as you rightly say, Yinks, that if Eddie Howe can use a little bit of that magic dust and just give him a little bit more on top of what he's already got, I think we could have a little bit of a diamond going on there myself.
What about there? What Hop Alcalza is saying? We should try Wulty and Osula again.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And you know, I look at Osula. He played well against Bradford. Now, again, I'm not saying that you said this is the type of teams that he needs to shine against to give him confidence. But even when, you know, what we've seen with a lot of Newcastle players this season.
But he's our top scorer now, you know.
On 3 goals, absolutely. But what surprised me, you change a player. So you ask a player who starts left, and we talk about Harvey Barnes, Anthony Gordon, to go from left to right-hand side, and the player disappears. I mean, he may not have been there from the start at times, but I mean, when you ask him to move position, the player disappears. But when I see Osula come from the centre, like he started, moved over to the right, doesn't disappear. He wants the ball. He still wants to be involved in the game. And I cannot fault that. I love that energy from a player that doesn't matter being moved, just wants to play football.
I think if you do play ball up front by himself, you have to make a decision on whether to push the two attacking central midfielders 10 yards forward so that they can get on these balls, or you pull the two wingers in 10 yards so they're
inverted.
You've got to have somebody the people ahead of them for them to play them sort of balls. Yeah. So it is going to mean a slight difference in what players. I say that either the two central midfielders need to go forward or the two wide men need to pull in.
Yeah. You're right. I think that's where we were struggling a little bit against Bournemouth. I think there was far too much space between the middlemen and the forward line. So by the time Voltamada's got it, unless you've got pace going in behind, which to be fair, on the one side, you know, you got to think of Jacob Murphy, Harvey Barnes, not a lot of pace in between them. You know, are they going to break lines? Well, not really. But if they play close enough with a little bit of guile, a little bit of trickery, the give and goes into space, there's always an option to beat a player. The problem is with us is we don't ever seem to have that energy behind the line, you know, as we saw against Bradford, where you'd got the likes of, I mean, Elanga was doing some amazing runs right to left, not really being seen by the midfielders or not utilised because he was moving players out of position and the space that he was providing was being utilised by players. So for me, there was options. There's been a little bit of obviously we're going to move on to some of the stories, and I just want to hit this one because there's been a lot of critics of Miley before we get into the main story tonight. And the headlines to this one is Newcastle United dressing room enforcer shuts down Lewis Miley critics. And I haven't read this because I've literally just spotted it. So
J7.
It's J7 who shut down any criticism of Lewis Miley, after youngster performance against Bradford City. And again, you know, like I say, it's a big thing. But even against Bournemouth, there's been a lot of criticism from fans that were watching him. Again, to me, what I look at with players is certain players, and we saw it with Longstaff, we saw it with Willock to a degree now, Miggy, Almiron, ASM. You know, there's always going to be a player within the Newcastle ranks, and it doesn't matter where you are, that will get criticism because he just doesn't do what you expect. And it looks like Miley's the one now that's seen as the scapegoat to a degree. But the lad's still got to have game time. I think people forget that as much as he had game time to all the injuries, didn't have a lot of game time last year. Hasn't really had...
Bournemouth was his 50th game.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If you think about it, when you say it's his 50th game, that's not a 50th start.
That's not 50, 90 minutes.
No,
but...
That's what I'm saying. So, as a 19-year-old, I mean, you look at some of the 19-year-olds around in the Premier League, they've had a lot more than 50 starts win. So, I agree. I do think that Eddie's got to take the shackles off him, though, and allow him to play football. That's what I'm saying. And I'm hoping that the criticism doesn't knock him back. I hope he just uses it as fuel to get forward and continue. So yeah, that was a little headline that I saw. I've just had an update on Sandro Tonali's contract talks have been delayed. Again, like I say, there's a lot of rumbles around at the minute regarding Serie A move for Sandro Tonali, and like obviously 3 years left on his contract. This is where you need to start talking to people. We've seen in the past that
I think all they're saying, Gary, is that there's going to be no talks with Tonali until the sporting director's
involved,
appointed.
Yeah. The
Do you
sporting
think any
director's
club in
involved.
Syria could afford to buy him anyway?
That's what I was going to say.
well, it's like everything else, isn't it? You know, we said that with Isak, didn't we? I mean, who's going to afford to buy him? I'm hoping we don't get another Isak. That's what I'm saying. If a player wants out and he's not happy, you know, that's a different storyline, and that's what I'm saying. And I'm not going to go down that line.
You've got to believe if you have any faith in human nature at all, you have to believe that Tonali recognises that he owes us big time, or
that's
sticking with him through the years ban.
Football's not like that, though. When he won't look at it like that, and I agree with you.
But you think not at all.
If you're a gentleman, then yes, you will. But he'll have an agent in his ear, and he'll have people.
Exactly.
Basically, he's got a short career. If he's going to get offered more money somewhere else, and he thinks his prospects are better, he'll be off. I agree with you that as a gentleman, you would hope he would do that, but that's not going to be the case.
Yeah. What I was going to say is like Botman, isn't it? You know, at the minute, it seems as though there's a little bit of unrest with Botman not getting the game time that he wants. Now, all of a sudden, they're in contract talks, and that seems to be a little bit of delay, or Botman's not really ready to talk contract talks yet to try and find out what's going on with him. So that's what I'm saying. You've got to be careful. That's all I'm saying, because some of these players, unless there is something else happening around the team, and I mean something happening by you've got worldies in your side, and you understand why you sat on the bench a lot of the time, because you've got a player who's better than you on the park. Even that's not good enough for a lot of players. They still want to play football. And if you look at Botman, you know, coming back from a serious injury, you should expect him to have a little bit of patience. But as long as he's proving that he's fit, he's a better technical player than Byrne. But has he got the same art and passion? And I think there's a different player in both of them. Both of equal, I suppose, both special in their own right. Because where you got the local boy and that passion to want to win, which probably gets an extra 5% out of him, Botman reads the game probably a little bit better. So, you know, for me, there's good and bad in both of them. But I just hope now, you know, Newcastle.
And can he stay fit? That's the biggie.
Well, that's what I said. I mean, it's all about management now. Like I said, you know, you've got Chow that seems to be comfortable coming into the side now. Botman seems to be comfortable coming into the side now. It's management now. Eddie's got to show his coaching abilities with the two lads and coach them and give them the right minutes where they're not getting injured, and then obviously take them out when he needs to break them. Because there's definitely enough player and enough skill levels around them to continue. Right then, let's get on to the main event of the show then, I suppose. You've got Craig Hope. He's
latest on the William Osula venture.
Yeah.
The non-transfer to Frankfurt at the end of the window, if you remember, when we were offered, by all accounts, 30 million, including add-ons, for Osula.
Yeah.
And it was going to be a £6 million loan deal. They were going to pay $6 million up front with an option to buy. And Newcastle wanted to include, apparently this is according to Craig Hope's article, a buyback clause in that agreement that they wouldn't agree to. So it was then changed to a £4 million loan deal with an option to buy. And that was sort of agreed between the parties until PIF themselves stepped in and said, no, we ain't having that. That is far too favourable for Frankfurt, and we are not getting enough out of it, because that wouldn't have included the buyback clause or the sell-on clause. And so PIF it was that put a block on that move. And aren't we lucky that they did? Because then we had the Wissa injury come along. So you could argue we were very fortuitous that happened, because our current top scorer wouldn't be with us if it had gone through.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Go on, mate. No, go on.
No, when it comes to Willa Sula saga, I've always been a fan of him. I want him to do well at the club. To be fair, after watching him against Leeds, I was really, I was I was not upset, but I was like, okay, maybe he isn't he looked so raw and he looked like he wanted to prove a point. I never saw growth in him. And because in pre-season, I also never saw growth in him as well. But I do believe that he's someone that plays off confidence. And one of the mistakes that was made was when against Aston Villa, when we had no striker, they kept on fixating on Callum Wilson, knowing that Callum Wilson was most likely going to leave. I do believe that Willa Sula should have been introduced a lot earlier to help with his progression into the squad. I feel like he's been done very dirty as well. Because no disrespect, just imagine being a striker and you're seeing, and him and Gordon, there's only like 2 years difference in the age, and you're seeing Gordon play up front over you. I feel like I don't like the way that he has been filtered into the squad. Hence why we still see the rawness, and for me, he forces a lot of things because he was trying to prove himself rather than come and just flow with the game. So hopefully, maybe this might be the beginning of something new. I don't know, but I do feel like he's been very unlucky in the way that he's been treated, because I think he has been treated unfairly, personally.
Yeah. I know because there's another spin on this to a degree. I don't know whether you guys have seen this clip that's been going around. I mean, we all know Willa Sula. Apologies for the adverts. When he does this thing in front of his face, there seems to be a lot of the Newcastle coaches responding to this in a negative way. And again, this is a chronicle spin on this. So again, I don't know how much this is just journalism trying to get a story out of nothing. But according to what the journals are saying, the coaches aren't happy because this is him mocking them, saying, look at me. You know what I mean? After his performances, scoring goals. I mean, obviously, this is his goal against Liverpool, as you can see in the background, where we got back to 2-2. And, through all the excitement and everything else, I'm sure it was the last thing going on his mind. But this is obviously something that you've seen, especially his goals against Bradford. He didn't do it. And again, I think it's been obviously whispered in his ears that it just seems as though he's mocking the coaches. And they seem to have a little bit more of a different spin on it, if you like. So this is the Chronicles spin on it. And like I say, nothing major. But apparently, days after that game, he fell further down the pecking order with the signing of Nick Woltemade and Johan Wissa. On deadline day, there was then the chance to leave for Frankfurt, as Win has just said, signal the end of his career at Tyneside. Frankfurt, however, refused to agree to an obligation to buy. They were told that the 4.3 loan deal, which according to Craig Hope was a 6 million loan deal, would be applicable for Osula, but the Bundesliga side said that an obligation to buy fee of 17.3 million resulted in the deal hitting the buffers. Now, again, depending on who you read and who you believe, according to some of the papers, what PIF have suggested was this deal favoured Frankfurt more than it favoured Newcastle at the time of the deal going through. Because obviously without the £30 million up front, didn't really help or support Newcastle anyway. And because it seemed as though Frankfurt were changing their mind or trying to change the deal at the 11th hour to try and swing a deal that favours them, PIF just pulled the plug. And according to what the Chronicle are saying, Howe instantly pulled the plug on his exit and insisted he was needed for cover. The Magpies manager and his coaching team, including Jason Tindall, who played a key role in signing Osula from Sheffield, retain faith that the raw promise can be polished into a gem. It was slightly turbulent end of the transfer window for him, Howe admitted. Will, he's very driven. He has a great attitude to his work and his career. He's very ambitious and he wants to play as all players do. So again, these have got a totally different scope on it. And I think a lot of it is just a case of...
Well, I've got another Howe quote, Gary. He said he's progressing really well. It was a slightly turbulent end of the transfer window for him, but he took his goals really well against Bradford.
Yeah, there you go, you see. Different spin. So it's like I said, it depends on how you read it. It depends on who or which side of the fence you want to sit on.
As regards the are you watching thing, you know, I say good on him, you know, let him why not say, are you watching?
Watch me.
I can score goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like I say, so all the good strikers, I mean, you go down them. A lot of good strikers have had an attitude, you know.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's what you need, that little bit of a cutting edge to get the end product. And I think, like I say, fair play to him. If he's that confident, and he's paying something back. I mean, listen, you know, scoring against Liverpool ain't no easy feat. You know what I mean? They're a decent side. And yes, he took it well. He could have got hurt. He could have pulled out. I've seen a lot of players pull out in them situations. But you know, that's just pure determination and the want to succeed. So fair play to him. But I don't understand the hype, if I'm honest with you. I don't understand the issue that they're saying in the Chronicle compared to what Craig Hope is saying. Like, you know, with this thing. What is the issue?
Just a couple of points. If he'd run towards the bench doing that, I could kind of understand it.
Yeah, but he's not.
He didn't. He was running towards the crowd. I think he was saying, look at me, sort of thing, which is he's just a young lad, which is fine. The other point is as well, with the Osula deal, was it not cancelled, if my memory reminds us correctly, that the Wissa deal was really late in the day? Was the
the 30 seconds.
Well, yeah. So from my understanding from the window itself, when they were talking about it at that point, they said the Osula deal was pulled off in case we didn't get Wissa.
Yeah, that's what all our understanding was, Andy. I think it was a case of that's how we interpret it. But the spin in the papers now, totally different spin on it.
It just seems this is a sort of a story that came from nowhere in regards to. I mean, don't get me wrong. If we could have got £30 million for Osula, we should have drove him there ourselves.
Well, you're saying that.
I know everyone's saying he scored 3 goals this season, but he's never going to be a striker. He's never going to be a world-class striker as the top and bottom of it. He's a good player, and he will fit in somewhere, but he's never going to be a first-team player for us. And if you could have got £30 million for him, we should have took it.
Yeah.
I certainly said that at the time, and I will hold my hands up and say it.
Yeah.
But could we both be proven wrong?
No, but
time will tell.
He's not a top class player. He's a good player, but he's not top class.
Well, you know, let's see if he can become that, because right now he's our top scorer. And is it clever to drop your top scorer?
But this is part of the problem. You're looking at it from a game against Bradford, against a League One side.
Agreed. But he scored against Liverpool as well.
Do we say now that we have to play Botman because he's played in the best game so far this season for us, so Byrne doesn't play? Would you agree with that one?
Yeah.
If he was to go with Botman and Chow, I wouldn't be happy, but I couldn't argue with it. By the way, did you see our new sleeve badge on Wednesday night with the Carabao Cup and the one,
yeah,
the one underneath it there?
Yeah. No star though.
No, they're having this line and the number instead of the side. It's going to look pretty sick when you get Man City with 13 there or something. whatever it comes down to.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I like I say, I've just had a message from Connor, bless him, and apparently the Osula celebration, and I'm sure everybody else should know this on the coaching side, so I don't know where the spin's coming from. The Osula celebration is because he's a big wrestling fan, and it's homage to John Cena gimmick of "You Can't See Me." So there you go. So that's what I'm saying. Like I said, I'm sure there's a rationale behind it because a lot of the players that have these celebrations now as some type of
it's not like the Chronicles try and create something out of nothing, is it?
Well, there you go. Like I said, I mean, it again, this is what I'm saying. How much do you read now? And I don't read papers, if I'm honest with you, as in everyday news stuff, because I just don't believe what I'm reading half the time. But on the sports side of things, I feel as though, especially for Newcastle, it's worse than a bloody soap opera. It's like watching Coronation Street sometimes and bloody EastEnders, you know. One paper will say this, the other paper will say that. And you're like, well, hold on. How they're not talking to the same people here in these journals? You know what I mean? It just seems as though they have a totally different look at it and a different angle. And it seems to always feel as though they want to make... I mean, they're so-called Northeast journalists, but they just want to take the piss out of Newcastle. That's what it feels like to me. They want to make us like a laughing stock, and that should not be the way to be as a Northeast journalist. What's your thoughts?
One thing I'm amazed you managed to do, Gary, is get to the article in the Chronicle. Normally you can't get past the bloody adverts.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I say, I do take my time when I'm like thumb scrolling all the way past, 17 adverts before you get to a sentence.
I told you the one I did last week, didn't I, with Elliot Anderson. And it said, Elliot Anderson, buyback clause. And so, scroll, and read 14 paragraphs in the second last paragraph from the end. Rumours of there being a buyback clause are totally incorrect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely mental.
And it's exactly the same with the Wissa thing that they've got to do. I didn't even bother. I'm assuming it's just going to say he's not injured. He's not going to need an operation. I'm assuming that's what it's going to say. But the headline is Wissa operation latest. But I haven't even bothered reading that because I'm pretty certain if you do, it'll say there ain't going to be no operation.
They don't need one. Yeah, he doesn't need one. So obviously we heard it again. Bless him, Connor threw it at me right at the end of the show this afternoon. Joe Willock's saga seems to continue. Joe Willock is not injured, according to the rumour that's coming out of camp. There's been a bit of a falling out with Eddie Howe, with his future now up in the air. Now, there was a massive... there's been a drop-off in performance for some time. But for me, seeing him against Bournemouth, it was literally as if we were playing with 10 men. There was no involvement, no intent, even direction. You know, when a player has been given a specific task, a role, didn't seem to actually get involved in any of the game whatsoever. Is that it now, do you think? I mean, obviously not even included against Bradford. That's a bit... that was before I read this. Obviously, I said to Chris last night, if I was a player sat on the bench, that's what I class as a bench player now, and I've got that in my head. If I can't get a game against Bradford, that's a kick in the teeth. So, confidence-wise, do you think he's shot? Do you think he's done?
He's at the prime of his career now. He's 25, 26.
As I said, if you remember the Bournemouth game, there was 3 occasions where he picked the ball up, did really well, made his run, and the final ball was just woeful. You know,
I think it could be the best for both parties if he does leave. I think it might be good for his career. Because I don't think he's going to get a top Premier League club, is he? He's probably going to get slightly lower down the Premier League, which will be better for him, and it's the right decision for us at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I am disappointed though, because there is a player there. You know, he's got. I mean, you look at that Nottingham Forest game last year, the start of the Carabao Cup. You know, he started like a train for the first 15 minutes and then got injured. Just never seemed to be the same player back.
That's right,
he just seems to be further and further down that pecking order when it comes to choices. And obviously, I suppose that again, another kick in the teeth for him. He's having Ramsey come into the side. We lost Anderson.
It's been constantly stop-start for Willock, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And I don't think we'll play the right system for him now.
To suit him, yeah.
I agree.
He had his purple patch, if you like. Apart from the Bruce era, he had his purple patch under Howe when him and J7 were running the left wing.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a left winger as well.
I don't think he is either.
Yeah, I think I think the injuries have caught up to him. And I think his mind says one thing, but his body's been another. And he needs to readjust himself and actually look within himself and actually work on his ability because he's a new player. But because he's not a technical individual and he fixates on athleticism, it's now got to a point where he can't use his get out of jail card no more, which is his pace and athletics. And he hasn't got the skill to a degree to use his feet or pass. So as a centre midfielder, he's not looking great at all.
No, I think you can sometimes tell by his body language as well that he's not enjoying it. He's not. He can't do what he's got. He's obviously got in his head what he wants to do.
Exactly.
His body simply won't let him do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like I say, it was an interesting chat that we had when we were talking about Willock being friends with Isaac. And I don't know whether you'd seen where they were all having a curry. You'd got Osula, Isaac, and Willock all around the table, and everybody's having a bit of a laugh and a giggle. And they were all asking a question: was it the fact that when you heard, I think it was from Craig Hope saying that there was some unrest in the dressing room, or there's going to be some part of the dressing room that's got a bit of an unrest about it. Do you think there's anything behind that regarding him and Isaac now leaving? Does he feel as though he hasn't got a friend anymore?
I think if he's going for a move to Liverpool, I've got more chance of growing a second arsehole, to be honest. So,
Willock going to Liverpool.
Yeah, if he's missing his mate, we'll all have people at work who people leave and you miss them, but you can't let it affect your work. End of the day, he's a professional footballer. If he's huffing because somebody's left, that's just bloody ridiculous, to be perfectly honest.
I tell you what, it's amazing what a couple of goals will do for you. Even though, as Brookie says against Bradford City, Hartman saying, "When's correct? I've changed my mind. The Soul at the start." Irish assassin, 20 goal striker, 17 to go.
Well, like I said, it's daft. Look, does it mean that Eddie Howe...
Give it. Baltimore had the instructions. Give the ball to Osula.
Yeah, exactly. But again, is it the fact that Eddie Howe has to drop one of the midfielders now to play Baltimore in the 10 to have players in front of him? Because there's an option there now, isn't there? You know what I mean? The biggest problem is have we got the ability to throw in another striker in January? Because if that's the type of style of play that we're going to do, we are going to need another striker.
Well, all I would say is let's give him a chance. I'd rather give Osula another chance than play Anthony Gordon.
I knew you were going to say that.
or even Alanga, because I said I wouldn't have had Anthony Gordon up front anyway. If I was going to put a winger through the middle, for me it should have been Alanga. But no, he's got a bit of confidence there now. As you say, guys, he was He wasn't just staying within those tram lines yesterday. He was moving about a bit more.
Around.
Is
Looked a lot sharper.
is he bringing that to his game? And if so, why, give him a shot.
And also,
he scored against Liverpool. Why can't he score against Arsenal?
You've got to remember that's against Bradford. It's not against...
He scored against Liverpool.
He did, and it was a good goal against Liverpool.
It was a good goal again, exactly.
But he's not going to be a world class. He's not going to be a great striker.
Well, you say that. Things change.
My only pushback is that
he changed my mind.
My only pushback is with Osula personally. Has he really got service? Just to be honest, even though I do understand his first touch ain't the greatest, he's very raw, he's clumsy as hell. But I've not really seen him have service from any time he starts. Personally, against Leeds, maybe one pass to him where he could have done a little bit better. Other times, doesn't seem like he gets much service. If I had to be honest.
No,
so
I would say he's had more than one, but nonetheless, the thing is he can he bring it to his game? And I say, look, he's your top scorer. Give him a chance.
Yeah, Jay saying with Hendricks coming back in January, we hope. yeah. I hope not, mate. I mean, listen. There's a point to what you've just said there, and we hit it briefly about.
No, I think he's saying Hendrick. I think he means Hendrick at.
Yeah, I'm going to say. Yeah, I'm hoping the other one ain't coming back. For me, the one point you can't take away from him is eagerness and the want to succeed. Right? Goal scorers aren't made; they're born. That is you don't become a superstar striker, because if that was the case, they'd all be like the kids do when you put your jumpers down and everybody wants to be up front, don't they? These players, as they go through the channels,
it's my ball says I'm Alan Shearer.
I'm Shearer. Yeah, exactly. We have to look and say to him, if he could just stop that crazy mentality, just calm it down a touch. You were saying there, Yinks, about his first touch. Sometimes, because his mind's at 100 miles an hour, his body's also reacting to the mindset. So I think there's an element where he has to remain that way, cheeky, aggressive, being willing to get hurt if he needs to, get his head onto stuff. But he also needs to have that brain set to say, I need to just calm it down, be a little bit more composed in front of goal, because I think you will see a different player in him if he was to do that. I just think, as you've seen with a lot of Newcastle players, when we play, the high intensity is the identity. A lot of our football goes missing. We overhit balls. We everything's done at 100 miles an hour. It's difficult to change that mindset, playing the game, when everybody else around you is like a bloody, a swarm of ants. Everybody's running everywhere. So I think that's the one thing that Newcastle have been missing for a while for me, is somebody who's got a level head in the middle of the park that can control the tempo. And I thought Morley did that superbly well against Bradford. I think Tonali does it really well. And if you watch Tonali, and it's the only thing for me that I think I want to see Morley doing, like Tonali does, is he tells everybody to calm down. You know what I mean? Sometimes you see him in the centre circle. He's more Tonali's just telling everybody to take a touch, calm it down. Because even he must see and get frustrated when you go and play for Italy, where everybody's playing one-touch football into channels, and it's getting there. You look at some of the Newcastle passes, because it's literally pinging around like mad, and it doesn't go to the said target. So, yeah, I understand that part, but I just think, like I say, I do think there's a player there. Whether he can make it in the Premier League, though, will be one to watch. But he's doing okay.
That'll be for a future programme. And right now, let's get back to the subject in mind, which is the new stadium.
Well,
and who's going to fund it? Because hitherto, everybody's been thinking PIF are going to come in and pay for whatever this brand new state-of-the-art, best-in-the-world stadium is going to be. But we are told today that might not be the case, that PIF are looking for funding to for the new stadium. And they're going to go to lenders for it. And that if we do borrow money to build it, that debt will be attributed to Newcastle United PLC, or whichever entity that is, and not, it won't be PIF themselves borrowing the money. So effectively, if they were to do that, my take on the situation is, and let's have your opinions, is that the PIF are not interested in taking all of the risk on a brand new state-of-the-art stadium being able to generate sufficient revenue to make it profitable.
When can I ask where this story's come from?
This is from Craig Hope as well, Craig Hope Confidential.
Because to me, I can understand getting commercial partners involved in building a stadium. So if there's going to be, say, a hotel, bits and bobs in or around the stadium, having people like that. But it makes very little sense for them to borrow money to pay interest on it when they're very cash rich. So as I say, I can understand them getting commercial partners involved, but I can't see them borrowing the money. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
And it doesn't make any sense to me either, but the article is saying that Confidential understands...
That's the word though, isn't it? Understand.
Understands, yeah, that
right.
A pitch document has been circulated with a view to securing finance on the project. While still at an exploratory stage, it is thought that any debt would belong to the club in the long term rather than PIF. For example, if the cost of a new stadium is to total 2 billion, PIF would fund half of it with the Reuben brothers, and the other half would be taken out as a loan.
But when the whole point of PIF is obviously it's an investment fund.
That's right.
So they're not going to want to laden more with debt, because if they do want to sell in the future, they're going to want to get they want to get as much money as possible.
Right. So and the very investment that you mention is in the article itself, because it says Confidential has been reminded that PIF is not, quote unquote, not a sugar daddy, and that the key letter in their acronym is the I for investment. So despite infrastructure cost being out with the Premier League's profit and PSR rules, the owners will make an investment decision and finance the project in the same way they would any other ventures within the PIF portfolio. It is likely that a special purpose vehicle, a new company, would be created to facilitate the stadium project.
The only thing I could think there is that the creating new company and PIF somehow fund the stadium, but as a loan to the club.
Yeah,
I don't see them going out and getting finance from an outside source to fund the new stadium. It just doesn't make
it doesn't make sense, does it?
I could not agree with you more, but it just begs the question: where then has this article come from, other than Craig Hope's imagination?
Well,
I can't imagine he puts anything in print just on the basis of his imagination.
An assumption.
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does.
That's the truth, because it's all about catching eyes, getting us to read the article, and it's probably on his Confidential, the Mail Plus, and so essentially it's giving people a reason to come and want to read it more and more. So I think it's an embellishment of the truth. Muslims tend to not believe in interest anyway. So to pay an interest anyway. So I'll be surprised if they actually PIF will want to take again. I think Boki's correct, if I have to be honest, where they would loan the money to Newcastle and we'll pay PIF back rather than it being us going to a bank to get the money.
Yeah.
I'll be surprised.
I mean, the way it reads to me, and again, there's so many variations to it, and we've spoke about, you know, our PIF totally invested in Newcastle as a wholesale. Well, no, they're not. They've got the fingers in other pies in Saudi Arabia. They've obviously got 3 to 4 teams over there. They've obviously got the World Cup now coming to Saudi Arabia, and a lot of, you know, emphasis has been spoken to about that. But when you read the article and you start looking at it for what it actually is, it's only the same model that other Premier League teams do, where they go on to outside investors and banks and everybody else that do when they want to develop the ground, they have loans, they have all these other things, and that was obviously brought up in the ATP2 version, because obviously there was a lot of questions about Premier League teams that are financially, if you look at the paperwork, lots and lots of debt. So from that view, you know, the way I read it is a PIF just being guided to go down the same lane as other Premier League teams for whatever reason.
PIF won't want debt at the club. That's
you wouldn't have thought so.
That's the last thing they will, because I mean, I'm guessing as well, if you start going down that line, it starts to, does it affect your ability to buy?
It affects your PSR.
Your PSR for players and things.
Yeah.
So I mean,
because they're now including that, aren't they? Any loans that you've got in your club now, they're going to say it's part of the PSR.
I mean, just with Craig Hope on this point, I understand he's got years in the club for around players and things like that. I don't think he'll have anybody listening in on PIF. I don't think he's got anybody there that particularly speaks to him. It sounds like maybe there's been a rumour around the club and he's followed up on that.
You see, the word that I read, and it was as big and as bold as you could ever understand it, was understand. The word, I understand, right? So it's, again, is it something that he's heard somebody talking about, you know, should we go down the road? You know, listen, I'm not saying this hasn't been talked about. This is where we've got to, you know, try and make, you know, I suppose there's got to be conversations had in a boardroom at boardroom level to say, if we do invest in the club or we do rebuild St James's Park to a degree, where do we get the money? Do we just go to the PIF and say, we'll bring all the money in? Or do we say, you know what, you put a chunk in and these other people put a chunk in? Like I said, it's the same model that other Premier League teams do. The only problem for me now is PSR. Because if it affects the PSR that we're already under scrutiny with, the investment for players in the future is going to be very minimal. So is it worth staying at the stadium now and saying, you know what, I'm happy with what we've got, and the dream was a dream? And the other thing you've got to remember is, and again, this is where we've been goaded to, if you remember, and it was, what was the saying, Win? What he said? Not an open checkbook. There was something...
once in a lifetime. This was Brad Miller. This was last year when he said, well, we've got the ability to invest and the commitment and the ambition from the ownership. We only want to write that check once. The stadium investment is genuinely a once-in-a-generation opportunity, and we want to make sure that we get it right. Unquote.
Yeah, unquote. And I do think it's I suppose it's one of them situations where you've just got to watch this space. And again, is this all about now? And again, you know, we talk about PIF wanting to win everything. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to sports. Is this them now saying, you know what? Because of all the issues that we've had with the council, all the red tape and everything else, potentially Leazy's Park, is this another, you know, chink in the armor type of thing? Is this another way of them saying, you know what, I invest in, I'm going to go this way, and then we'll get investment somewhere else. I'm not saying that that's what's been said. I'm just saying, you know, sometimes when you get peed off with all the red tape and bureaucracy, you do say things off the cuff that probably...
Well, I've said 100%. Many a time, as you know, that the best outcome for PIF up sticks and get out and build a massive complex, you know, conferences, hotels, the lot, and make it an international hub, which would include, of course, the stadium and the training ground and everything else to go with it.
The only thing for me is if they do this, if they go down and follow the model that other Premier League teams have followed, if PIF do pull out at some point, does that leave Newcastle in a bit of a hole? Because obviously the finances then have to cover the loan for the new stadium, and the investors that come in and buy PIF out, obviously, and the Rubens have to have.
I don't think it does, because what Newcastle United have done over the last 4 years since PIF took over is we've effectively had to be self-funding by £35 million a year.
Yeah.
Well, we've been allowed to, and that's an ongoing thing, that your 35 drops off and comes back into the reckoning.
Yeah.
So the most that PIF have put into the project is 100, apart from the initial buy-in cost, which I'm always reminded includes, by all accounts, £1 billion that they had to pay to beIN.
Yeah,
for the Saudi TV rates.
It's the interest on the loan that's calculated to PSR. It would actually be beneficial to get a loan for stadium rather than pay with their own cash. It's exactly the same as Spurs did to build. So there you go. So it's the interest on the loan, not the loan itself, that gets...
No, but the interest does affect PSR.
That's what he's saying. It's the interest that's the PSR.
Yeah. So that would make it even less able to buy players.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But then it depends on the amount of investment that PIF do against the loan, isn't it? If it's a 50-50 split, then I agree with you. No, but if they're going to put 75% in and 25%,
to me,
loan,
none of it makes any sense. I can't understand why PIF wouldn't want to fund the whole project themselves. Obviously, they'll have done their homework first to establish whether or not this super-duper all-purpose stadium could, in fact, generate that amount of revenue, enough revenue to make it profitable. And if they've established that, yes, it would, then why would they not take on all of that risk, for want of a better expression, themselves, as opposed to letting somebody else get the benefits of it?
Do you not think part of the thing is, as well, with this from Craig Hope, is they've got to put stories out every day.
Yeah.
And, he's not looking for stories, but there's been a little rumour and he's managed to make a full article out of it.
It's some of the buzzwords that get me. That's what I said. It's the buzzwords.
But I mean, if you watch it, it's the same as YouTubers as well. A lot of them, where they're on by themselves, they have to have the clickbait, so they go in with stories like this, and really, there's no foundations under them. There's nothing anywhere that's been said by anybody that sort of makes you think this is the case. It's sort of a rumour, or it's hearsay from this guy or that guy. As I say, Craig Hope won't have anybody in PIF who's ringing them up saying, well, maybe he's going to do this for the stadium. He's obviously heard it somewhere and just made a full article out of it.
Yeah.
I agree. I feel like because Newcastle as a fan group, we're very tribalistic. So essentially, like, again, good news is we're going to follow it. So Craig Hope knows himself the heart of Newcastle fans, so he's going to always put the buzzwords out there and try to get people to engage with his article, because that means he's doing his job. Money is in his pockets. This stadium situation, as much as I would love to see it, I think PIF, they probably have a particular plan that they're going to follow. There's still a lot more work that needs to be done as a football club to ensure that we're a European club and we're a staple European club. So I presume once we start hitting particular KPIs, I guess, then we might hear an introduction of the stadium. It will surprise me if they were to get a loan, and if they were to get a loan, I would expect banks to want to get involved in the project, because essentially they can also gain from it as well, because we are the European staple of football for PIF. we're their main asset, and we're growing year on year. And in due time, we will be worldwide. Again, I'm from London. You have Chris Mag. So I guarantee there's plethora of Newcastle fans all over the world. So I think in due time we will see the stadiums, but I think we need to worry what's on the pitch rather than the stadium for now.
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, I think it's one to keep an eye on. But again, how much, as you guys have rightly said, and it's the buzzwords for me. It just seems like clickbait. It just seems like to drive a story out there. Let's run with it. So I'm hoping, like I said, with the amount of money that these guys have got, it's BS, because for me it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. When you've got the money to put into the club out your pocket, why go to loans? But like I said,
it would seriously worry me if that was the case. It would worry me, because what that would definitely be saying to me, and I've had worries about it that I've aired in the past. That would say to me that they are definitely losing interest in the project. Because if it's their intention to be number one, as they keep on saying, then they would have no qualms at all about giving us a home to be number one in.
But if they were losing interest, they just wouldn't build a new stadium.
Well, is that going to be the next thing? This is what I'm saying. This is why I'm not worried, because we have now proven to any would-be investor, and trust me, there'll be dozens of US investors who are itching to get into the Prem, and if they get this is what I say. PIF have already doubled their money.
Exactly.
Because Newcastle is now valued at least $1.5 billion, and they paid 300 million for it. Now they've paid whatever 600 in transfer fees. Everybody points out, but all of that was self-generated. That was generated by Newcastle United. PSR proves that. All PIF can have put into Newcastle is £35 million a year, plus what they paid for it.
And also
that's all. PSR does not allow them to put any more in.
Yeah, that's right. PSR has been a big hindrance to our club. I think Newcastle as an asset is a viable asset that will definitely bring profit to any investor. I think PIF got us on a cheap, but for only 300 million. I think we're worth a lot more than that. So I'm not worried about PIF going. And if they were to go, a viable option, someone will come and buy it up immediately. So I don't think that's the problem. It's just
They could take that cash, take that profit, and ride off into the sunset. And thank you very much, by the way, for doing it.
Yeah, and the chairman just got in. We just recently got a new chairman. There's a lot of strategical aspects to it as well. That recently were putting back in place after the departures of
it's difficult because for anybody that's watched the Amanda Staveley high performance interview, it does seem on one hand.
There's Bruno saying, "Come back, Queenie."
It does seem it seems so good and passionate, and what she was doing with PIF. I mean, don't forget they were looking back at we were talking 2017 when all this was coming to light. So it would surprise me if they pulled the plug, having worked so hard, and the amount of groundwork that they've put in already behind the scenes to get through the door. Don't forget they were looking at Liverpool at one point to go and throw the cash out. So I suppose in one sense we've got to feel like and we are lucky to have them on board. But like I said, the model is loans these days rather than throwing cash at a club. So
I'll tell you what it is. If anybody could put together a Toon buying consortium, it would be Amanda. If PIF wanted out.
But who's actually seen PIF want out?
No,
the only person I've heard saying it is actually you. There's nobody else seeing that PIF one out.
No. I'm just reacting to the article saying, why else would they want investors in the new stadium?
We're going down a rabbit hole here. If PIF want to leave, there's absolutely nothing saying PIF want to be out of this club. If anything, quite the opposite.
Yeah, Liverpool have been champions in Europe just for the past 10 years. They ain't updated their stadium. City just recently updated their stadium. Like I have nothing to worry about at all.
No, it's like I said. I think a lot of it is just paper driven, and there's going to be nothing come of this whatsoever.
You know what the problem is, Gary? You've got, as I said before, you've got Daily Mail, and they have to do a story on every Premier League team every day or two to update the paper. So there's just going to be stories put in that are absolute bullshit.
Yeah,
you're not back in the day when you used to have CFAX and it would update every 7 to 14 days or something with a
CFAX.
By the way, have you seen CFAX? There's an app now
for you to watch the scores.
It's great, man. You get all your footy information in CFAX form.
Really? I've not seen that.
Brilliant.
But no, you used to get like a story every 7 days, every 10 days.
Yeah.
Now, as I say, they've got to have a story.
Was it 702 for the sport?
202, 302.
302, 302.
And it's still on page 302.
Is it?
Wait a minute, I get it.
324 for the tables, wasn't it?
324 for the tables.
I've got it,
unbelievable.
But just to add on what you said as well, the Isaac scenario, they held that from I think early July all the way till he left the end of August, and we heard a multitude of different things. And now what I'm seeing is Aston Villa now getting all the propaganda in terms of the DOF leaving or stuff with what's his face, their manager. So I just think it's all cycles. I just think they're just repeat and reuse and rinse.
Rinse again, yeah, exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, I've got a couple of Villa mates being local to Birmingham. I'm not local to Birmingham, but I mean, you know, around by where I am, there's a couple of Villa fans, and they are absolutely at loggerheads at the minute with what's going on at the club. I suppose we have to thank our lucky stars, if I'm honest with you, because PSR is hitting everybody, not just Newcastle. Couple of different stories, I suppose. Daily Telegraph has come out with a story. The idea that Congo will call Wissa up for the World Cup qualifier game in October is causing some concern on Tyneside. Congo expect to pick Wissa even if he just started training again in October. How much control? And again, I'm going to go back to the Barcelona match. Just for a briefing, we saw there that Yamal played for Spain and obviously played 2 games, 70-odd minutes in each, while taking painkillers for a groin problem, stroke muscle issue. And obviously we saw that there was nothing that Barcelona could do to keep the player from playing internationally. It seems to be whoever's the international coach has the ruling. Now, obviously, when we're talking about, we've heard now that Congo or FIFA, I should say, are giving us compensation for the Wissa injury. But when I read this, I'm like, surely to God, if he's literally just started doing the cold miles again on his own just to get feet on grass or feet in a boot again, if you like, he can't be called up for a World Cup game, surely in October.
From what I understand, Gary, with international football, they can call you up, and it's up to the international medical team whether you're fit enough to play or not. Yeah, it's not up to the sort of Newcastle's medical team can have discussions with Congo, but the actual decision is Congo's medical team. If they see he's fit enough to play, that's the decision made. That's up to them.
I mean, it does make you wonder where, like I say, where does it stop? You know, listen. We know Congo are going to have limited resources regarding players, right? Mm-hmm. So they'll want the best players to play regardless. So for me, if the player is just doing the hard yards, how does that create him being fit enough to play in a World Cup game? It doesn't. I mean, he couldn't even get into Newcastle side in those early stages of October. When is the World Cup win? The games, is it the 16th? 16th, 17th? In the October World Cup.
The October World Cup?
Yeah. Because there's qualifiers, isn't there, in October?
Oh, right. Sorry, you had me lost down in, eh? No. Yeah. The next international break is October the 17th, something like that. Yeah, it's that weekend. We'll play Forest on the. Let's get this right. It's the 5th. We'll play. That's it. The 5th we'll play Forest. And that's the last game before the international break.
And then we've got Brighton on the game back, haven't we? Because that's where they've question marked, if you like, and it is a question mark, his availability to say that he should be fit. But I was reading this and I'm thinking, wow, that's going to take the biscuit if he goes over there again before he's kicked a ball in anger for Newcastle. And potentially could rick his knee to the point where he needs an operation this time. Let's see what the medical team can say, eh?
I'll be very surprised if he actually ends up going. I think Newcastle, it seems like they played it well in terms of not giving Congo the chance to even play him, hence why they've said he'll be ready for Brighton. So I'll be highly surprised if he ends up going with Congo, because they could say that he could play, but he could be like, I can't play. That's my fault. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's where Bauke's absolutely bang on. It's not our medical team. There'll be advice and conversations. But like I said, the biggest problem we have is the fact that Congo haven't got a big pool of players to pull from in such an important game for them. So, because they haven't qualified yet. So every game for them is not a must-win, but you know, it's getting to that point of being a must-win. So for me, there's more of a I need that player rather than, okay, we'll let him rest on this one and see what he's like for the second game type of thing. Because for me, once he's over there, you've lost all control of him whatsoever. And that's, you know.
I'll be surprised. I think the African Nations Cup might mean more to him than the World Cup. I could be wrong. So I won't be surprised I'll be surprised if he plays. Not playing for Newcastle, I'll be surprised if he plays. But again, I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll surprise me.
Here's the site is
it's fantastic.
Telescore 302.
Look at that.
and all of these, all the pages are what you go. So the Premier League is 339. And you actually just click on them and they go there. This is just a screenshot of the home page. But I love it, me. It brings back so many memories. You know, whenever you're under Keegan, that when you were top of the league, you used to just sit and look at the table.
And then wait 4 hours for it to come back round.
Happy days.
I know it's not football, but do you remember the quiz as well on was it Bamboozle it was called or something on Channel 4? We used to have the different coloured buttons on the remote control. You have to answer the questions.
Right, yeah.
Oh no, I've never done that one. No, I never did that one. I wasn't a big, like I said, a big teletext person. I love the sports side of it. So once I'd read what I needed to read, that was that. I would go off. Yeah, off. I just couldn't be asked to wait for stuff to keep coming back round, if I'm honest with you. Another one that I suppose people can read into this as much as you like, and I honestly think that this probably gives this lad a little bit of praise to a point of I mean, like I said, for me, he's been probably one of our strongest players this season. He had a couple of bad games. I think he tries too hard at times. But obviously what we understood to know a little bit about the link with Bruno and Man City. A lot of people were saying that it was just a rumour. But Lee Ryder, again, he's saying that Newcastle United were the subject of an inquiry from Manchester City for Bruno Guimaraes this summer, but the conversation was quickly ended with the Brazilian happy on Tyneside. The inquiry, understood to have originated from intermediaries within the agent network, emerged in early June during the temporary FIFA transfer window prior to the FIFA Club World Cup. However, Newcastle rejected the interest, with Bruno content on Tyneside and willing to discuss his future contract talks down the road. Man City immediately switched their attention to AC Milan's midfielder Reinders and completed a swift deal for £46.5 million in time for the Dutchman to feature in the Club World Cup. Discussion his future, Bruno told Chronicle last week he is completely concentrated on Newcastle and said, "I have never changed my mind and I still look to make history at this club." I think that, like I say, I look at this lad and I'm starting to love him more and more. Not only as a footballer, but also with his passion, his commitment to the cause, his love of the northeast, if you like, and to the point where he's got a couple of kids now that he calls them Geordies.
How long before the chant goes, "Oh, Bruno is a Geordie,
Yeah,
Bruno is
absolutely.
a Geordie"?
For me, we have been the Champions League team 2 times in the last 3 years. That is an unbelievable for us. We have to keep that going. Bruno says there is a big job for us to be done here, and I want to be part of this team going forward. I think, like I say, his sentiment is unscathed in my eyes. But I mean, not everybody has the same opinion of Bruno. I just think he's probably, like I said, I was one of his biggest critics of times gone by because he didn't talk. He tried to produce a captain's role in ability, and sometimes that doesn't come across very well. I often like to see somebody point a finger and give rollickings now and again. And I just think Bruno sometimes can be too nice to his
Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah, he's too nice. Especially when you look at the likes of Willock's performance against Bournemouth. If you're allowing that type of behaviour as a captain, how far does other opposition, teammates take it before you get a bollocking? So I just think, like I say, there's 2 sides to look at it. But his sentiment for me was top dollar.
I'm laughing at Michael Mick there saying, "You had teletext, you must have had money."
I think with Bruno, he's proven to be a great player. I don't know if he just thinks where he is, he's hit his level. I think if he went to Man City, he would maybe be found, but this sounds awful, but he'd be found out a little bit more. He wouldn't be necessarily a guaranteed first team player. Whereas here,
he could go on to
the next level. Don't get, as you say, when you're right there, he could go on to the next level. But
what next level, mate? We are pinnacle.
but no, I think he feels comfortable here. He's got, as you see, he's got his family here. But I think maybe he's a bit like Matt Letizia in the day. Maybe he's just somebody who loves the area.
Loves the area, yeah.
I remember the interview we did with his missus. And his missus said she loves it. She's never known friendlier people, and so on and so on. I mean, it helps if you happen to be married to the the idol of the area. So that's absolutely not. I don't think she's going to have many enemies.
Do you think it's the love for his father as well, who obviously, he has a lot of respect
and the love that's been shown to his father by the masses.
Do you think as part of Bruno coming over here, there was some deal done about his family as well? So the club it wasn't only offering him a contract; it was like giving maybe his family a place to stay over here.
That's right, because they weren't
basically set him up in the northeast as this is his family, his second home, basically.
Yeah. Because they didn't live in France. His mum and dad.
No, I think Bruno's been a transformative player for us as a club, especially this period from when PIF entered into the scene. I think we're lucky to have a player like Bruno. Not to say he's the best midfielder in the world, but he's he's definitely up there. Even like his running stats has been the top.
Oh, if you look at in the
In the
Premier League
Premier League,
stats
he's the top
in
running,
so
yeah.
many departments, most
Yeah.
fouls won, most tackles in the opposing third. You know, he's and the running. He's always top of the league for that.
Also, he does have a lot of license to make mistakes as well, because
Yeah, he does.
he does make one or two mistakes,
and he
in
makes his share.
in a Pep system, they're a lot harsher in terms of, as Boki said, he may be found out he won't have the license to make the mistakes, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he has been a transformative player, someone that loves the club, and we're very lucky to have him personally.
One thing I won't say about him is I love him to bits, but I don't think he should be captain. I still don't think he's captain material. I think, if anything, Toon Army should be captain, and that's that role that he's got, because he's willing to blast. I think if Toon Army was put in as captain, he would be ready to blast players. I think if he's seen something that he didn't like, he would not keep his mouth shut. Whereas I think Bruno's a little bit more, he's great at geeing up the crowd and stuff like that and getting the crowd going, but he's a little bit reluctant. Well, he's very reluctant to have a go at anybody on the pitch.
Yeah.
Marco 4863 there saying Bruno would do brilliant at Man City, where he wouldn't have to concentrate on defence and attack. He would be brilliant as an attacking midfielder. Well, no. On the contrary, I say, because if he was given solely the attacking role, he doesn't get enough goals.
Yeah, he thrives he likes to defend. That's the problem. That's why I think he generally likes to defend. He likes to get the ball from deep and likes to spray. He's not a Pirlo, but he sees himself as that. That's how I see it. That can drive forward. But he loves to defend. Like, so but we want to see him.
As I say, he's number one in tackles, successful tackles in the opposing third.
Yeah.
He scored one of my favourite ever goals as well, the one against Leicester in that survival season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that'll go down in...
That will go down in history. He's in history book now for that, basically.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, there's points to his game that I want to take away, and one of them is the armband. But I think that puts him on a pedestal to a degree now at Newcastle, because he feels honoured by the club to be given that role. And it's like the pat on the back. Now, the only concern for me is, and you're quite right with what you were saying, has he found his level in the point that there's no competition for your space either at our club? You know what I mean? So when players get settled and they play, but he doesn't show the attitude as in, I'm just going to turn up and play. You know what I mean? And that's where the argument comes in for me, because I've had that thrown at me loads of times by opposition fans that live local, that they've said, well, your three are guaranteed to start every week. So, there's no competition in your team, unlike the Liverpools and Arsenals and the like. And I'm thinking, well, what competition is there in Arsenal? Because it's the same virtually, apart from injuries. Odegaard, Rice, it's the same combinations of players in every team, isn't it? McAllister's, Gravenbach, you know what I mean? You're always going to have a setup within any side that your coach believes in. That's what I'm saying. Yeah?
I think Howe is responsible for why Bruno has a lease of life in our club. To be honest, I think Howe really trusts him. I think maybe he sees. I think maybe Howe sees a lot of himself in Bruno. But there is we got to be honest. There is a bit of a favoritism towards the three midfielders. If they're to play poor, Howe's not going to change it. And that's just his way, I guess. I think there's a lot more stricter managers out there.
Yeah, Pink 1984, for Eddie to take the captain's armband from Trips and give it to Bruno says all that needs to be said. He knows the dressing room. That's an interesting point as well. I mean,
can I push back quickly?
Yeah, of course you can.
We always knew that the reason why Bruno got the captain's armband was because wasn't there like a 100 million something on his release clause on his contract, and Man City were touting for him. And I think one way that allegedly, I don't know, one way that I presume they were able to keep him was by giving him the captain's armband. So I let's not start creating narratives again, he was giving it so he can stay at the club. He wasn't giving it because he is and I'm happy for him to be our captain, not to take anything away from him. But it wasn't given to him because he's seen as a leader in the club. It was given because we still have a leadership group as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you could argue that when he first got the captaincy, he did look a bit like a duck out of water, but I think he's definitely growing into it.
Yeah.
I think as well, Trippier was beginning to become less of a regular first team player at that point. So I think your captain has to be.
He's got to be ever present, really.
Yeah, well, Iniesta's saying there, look, with Lascelles coming onto the bench, coming on off the bench onto the park, when Byrne was captain, he never passed the armband to Lascelles, who's supposed to be the second captain.
Club captain.
Do you think we should have took the £4 million for Lascelles now if he wasn't even starting last night?
No.
What's the point in having him?
Well, like I said, I think with Eddie Howe going into away games in Europe, I think he'll go for 3 centre-backs. So you need 5 centre-backs. I think if you were going to stay with the 4-3-3 formation, I think that's how I read it. And like I say, I don't know Eddie's philosophy on it, but for me, it's a case of if you're going 3 at the back in certain games to nullify the opposition, then I think it's probably the reason behind Lascelles staying. Now, people will say, and I've got to that point now, we've got to stop being the team that holds on to non-value players. You know, there has to be a buy out type of thing. You've got to start releasing players that give you some value because, as we've said before, as Win says, there's PIF aren't no sugar daddies. You can't just keep asking PIF for money. The club has to be sustainable under its own steam as well. And I think that is where Paul Mitchell had a problem. I think when he said, it's not, the system just doesn't work at the minute. But at the time, there was a lot of players that had no value within the club. Now these are Eddie's players that he's paid some money out to bring in. There's value there now. Now, whether we move forward and start transferring players in and out of the squad to get more value, I mean, somebody's put in the chat earlier about Max Dowman at Arsenal. Now, trust me, I would literally give my hind leg to go and get that 15-year-old in a black and white shirt because I think he is going to be an absolute worldie in the future. But you imagine how much you would have to go and spend on a 15-year-old. And that's a massive gamble because we all know with growth plates at that young, with him playing, and again, when there was a comment about Arteta picks his favourites, when you're young at 15, growth plates are still developing. You have to be careful. You have to manage them. And we've seen with Miley when he had his back injury, that was all apart from, according to the reports, was all part of the growth plates not developing correctly and probably overplaying. So there's I
think the other thing if you're even thinking about paying huge money for very young players, relatively huge money for very young players, it's not just ability and the growth things that you're on about. It's all about mentality. Yeah, if they suddenly start, making buckets of money, does that? You have to be of a certain mindset to there's a million fantastic footballers that never made the grade because they simply didn't have the right attitude. And that attitude changes, as we all know, when you're going through 13, 14, 15, 18, and you discover women and you discover other vices, shall we say. And you have to be of a certain mindset to put all that to one side, and football has to be your absolute soul thing in life. And this is what all the great players have had. All the great players.
Well, from this point now, we do need to go for younger players. Again, with the likes of Lascelles, is it sort of another Dummett or Richie situation where Eddie just seems to keep hold of older players to have them in the squad? And he says it's because he likes to have them around because they're good for the squad itself. But you can't keep play. You've got to remember how much these guys are on a week. And as I say, Lascelles is going to get very little, if any, game time this season. It's just one of those things where you just think, if you've got a chance to move a player like that on, move him on. And if you have to then go to the youth, if you have injuries and you have to go to a youth team, it brings in a youth player. You've got, what's his name? Is it Murphy or Wright?
Murphy,
Murphy, the centre back. Put him on the bench, give him a chance.
Yeah.
Well, he was on the bench yesterday.
He was on and say, come on.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying, though. But like, if you're saying for
Murphy.
Champions League and things, if you're playing 3 at the back and you need an extra defender on the bench, you've got loads of, you've got mountains of substitutes. Is it 11 in European football? Put somebody like him on the bench. Lascelles is just a dead wood now to me. He's not contributing anything to the squad.
Yeah, there's a point.
I wouldn't necessarily call him deadwood. I think he could probably still do a job.
No, it's Deadwood. He's Deadwood.
He's Deadwood when he is. I mean, when would you start him against Arsenal?
Would I start him against Arsenal?
Yeah.
Not given the options available, I would.
Would you start him? Would you have started him against Bradford?
I wouldn't have had any problems with him starting against Bradford.
But with the players we've got, would you have started?
But we already had Shea on the bench against. Could have been on the bench against.
That's exactly it. We've got better players.
Bar his concussion.
But that's exactly what I'm saying now. Lascelles is deadwood in the squad. There's just better players than him, and that's no offence to the lad. He's done great especially over when the Mike Ashley period and when Howe first came in. But now we're just keeping hold of him for keeping hold of him.
Yeah, but you seem to be quickly forgetting last season when both Lascelles and Botman were out, because that happens, people get injured, and we had two centre-halves out, which left us basically with 2 centre-halves.
But we can't have that type of mentality. We need to evolve, because essentially I think what we're trying to address is that we need a policy whereby we can introduce younger players rather than for fixating on players that have been there than the senior players that have been there for a long amount of time, just due to loyalty.
So what the current policy is we'll buy good younger players.
No,
which is what Chow and Botman are compared to Shea and Byrne.
But also, you have to identify players that can actually even compete against your Shares, your Burns as well at the best possible price, and also get them prior to anyone else snapping them up as well. Because I think that's what
you're on about is we need to develop the academy, and I couldn't agree with you more than that.
That as well.
But right now, the academy has been in stalemate for, the academy's been useless for as long as I can remember. There you go.
Brighton have been able to do it though.
But that's what Mitchell was trying to sort out as well, was starting to bring in good young players, and he got kiboshed.
Yeah, and we'll see how good those players are eventually.
But I'm saying he got kiboshed, and now there's nobody doing that.
Well, because we haven't got a sporting director at the minute.
That's what we desperately need, isn't it?
Absolutely desperately needed. If we want an argument, pick a different subject.
But as I say, you can't hang on to these old players on that basis. If you're offered £4 million for a player who's not going to play for this season, let's face it, if he starts more than 2 games, I'd be absolutely amazed. Just get rid of him. You're getting rid of a wage, and you're getting rid of somebody who isn't part of our future.
I think it's like I said. I think personally that Eddie Howe has a problem with young kids. I think it's about the trust. You know what I mean? And I think what he goes for is more experience, and that always doesn't get you out of the problems that you're facing. In my eyes, I think there's a lot of good talent in there, and I'm not saying Newcastle under 21s have massive abundance of talents at the back. I've seen loads of mistakes of a lot of them, but when you watch them play sometimes at their own level, can they step up in the Newcastle ranks? And again, you can't really look at pre-season because it was a bit point team in the pre-season games. So it's about giving them the opportunity. As you said, a couple of times on the bench, give them 10, 15 minutes here and there on games that you're winning comfortably. The Bradford games, you know what I mean? It's nice to see Murphy come on the side for Botman and have a couple of minutes, because again, he just grows confidence. And we look at the players that Mitchell have brought in, and I looked, keep looking back at them and saying how good they're developing and everything else, but they do seem a little bit stagnant yet. And again, it's the new coach that have come in. I just don't see Eddie Howe looking at young players and giving them a try. It's a problem that we've seen with Eddie Howe for a long time, and I hope it doesn't. Listen, you pay £3 million out.
So what would happen, right? So Eddie brings in these young players, and we'll end up getting turned over.
Yeah.
But that's not what he's saying, Win. He's not saying bring them into the first team and pop them in straight in. I think what Gary's saying is have them on the bench, and if you're up 2-3, 4-0, you introduce them for like the last 10, 15 minutes.
What's the point of having two goalkeepers? What is the point of having two goalkeepers? I mean, that to me is like it's the biggest kick in the teeth for any player wanting to get into the side when you're introducing two keepers onto the bench, because that tells me that there's no transition from youth to first team at all.
Well, I tell you what grows my confidence, and let's see my confidence grow. Hit the like button. We've only got 90 likes, so grow my confidence. Hit that like button right now if you haven't already done so. Thank you very much. Come on, get us to 100 at least.
Was it Park, the lad that was signed?
Yeah, apparently he's injured.
He's injured.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because I would have loved to have seen him yesterday.
Yeah, he'd fallen off the rails a little bit. A couple of performances for the under-21s wasn't great by any shadow of imagination, but apparently he was playing with an injury, which was hampering him, and he just didn't want to say anything. And like I say, the drop-off in form was significant, if I'm honest with you. But he's I don't know what's happened. I don't know what the injury is. I've seen no information regarding that. So or how severe it is. But he certainly lost his position in the under-21s. Literally overnight, it just seemed to go. What's this?
I think this is part of the problem with the press conferences as well, that the journalists do, is nobody ever asked like these questions like this. They don't say, Eddie, why are you not putting young players on the bench? Why are you not giving young players a chance? Why are you putting two keepers on the bench when you've got young players that you could have on there? It's all sort of just mundane questions. Whereas
to me, there's never any reason to have two keepers on the bench. It's just absolute madness.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who Kristofsky is, who he supports, but he's saying so. No Dauman, Weir, or Romero, and I think that's young Rio at Liverpool. I mean, for me, I'd have them at Newcastle tomorrow. But the biggest problem is, like I say, Eddie Howe wouldn't. He doesn't see value in youth. He just thinks they're too easy to get the ball off. That's what I believe. I think
he has another point, hasn't everybody? Janesta says, I've got issues with our loan department.
Yeah,
Cordero isn't getting starts, and
Sanusi
isn't getting minutes at Lorient.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what is the point? And that's something that has to be written in the loan contract. These guys have got to have a threshold that they must be hitting. Else, like I say, they might as well stay here and train with the lads and play in the under-21s. It makes no sense whatsoever. Experience sitting on the bench is no experience whatsoever.
98 likes. Who's going to put one over the 100? Come on, race to put us over the 100.
Yeah, somebody's asked me whether I like Hendrick. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Joe Linton. And to be fair, from last season's results, there wasn't a great deal to like. I'm going to put it on the screen. I mean, like I say, I think he, again, probably, I like the talent. I think he's got a hell of a lot of talent. But But when you look at his contribution, Real Madrid last season wasn't great, for a 19-year-old kid. I know he only played 353 minutes, 1 goal, no assists, and a rating of 6.29. And, when you look at down the side, I mean, he didn't get involved in a lot of games, but 58 minutes, 74 minutes, 64 minutes against lesser opposition, if you like, and still struggling in a very good side. You can't say he's not in a good side and he's not getting the service. So there wasn't a lot for me to shout about last year. And this is 24-25 I've had a look at. But he has got an ability, and that's what I said. Is it time that Newcastle moved a little bit closer towards the loan market to try and pick up a young lad as a support mechanism, maybe? And that's another thing that we don't really see Eddie Howe look at, isn't it? Is it the loan markets very often?
This is why we need a director of football isn't it? And this is why we need a director of football that's above Eddie, who makes the decisions. Well, it does. It needs somebody in there.
It doesn't.
It does. It needs somebody in there who's above Eddie, and they make the decisions football-wise in regards to who comes in and out of the club. Eddie has a say, but isn't in charge of that. And Eddie needs to concentrate on coaching the team. Eddie's a great coach. I think the summer proves he's not a great transfer manager.
The summer proves nothing of the sort. The summer proves that PIF dropped the ball.
Bullshit win. Now that's rubbish.
PIF. We'll agree to differ. We've had this argument that many times.
Had to step in to save Eddie's arse because he buggered the transfer window up so much. Him and his nephew.
When joking with us, man. When he's joking with us, he knows he's joking. He's joking. You're trolling us, Win. Stop trolling us, man. Stop trolling us.
I think Sanusi injured. The problem with Cordero, every game he's been involved, Westerlo lose. Every game he hasn't been involved, they haven't lost, said Foxy. So, again, Foxy's got a lot of fingers on pulses when it comes to the lads abroad. And I suppose it's like I say, some players fit a system and some players don't. But for me, if there's a problem with getting game time, like I say, Cordero may be just still trying to find his feet over there. He looked an interesting player at Malaga, if I'm honest with you. So I was a bit unsure of whether the loan deal was too quick.
Hey, thank you.
Done it.
105, Bush.
Cool. Right then, there you go. Sanusi is injured, according to Foxy. So Paul Mitch had buggered the transfer window up by leaving at the time we needed to do something. I suppose that's another way of looking at it. It was coincidental, put it that way.
But can we remind everybody of what Wynne said about Mitchell leaving was that Eddie Howe stomped up the stairs and said, I want to be in charge of transfers.
Get out of my yard.
Wynne was giving him props.
It's me or him, yeah, definitely. And get out the door. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Good riddance.
And he did that. He was in charge of transfers, but then when it went tits up, it wasn't his fault. It's PIF's then.
Well, because nobody had the authority to write the checks.
Anyway.
That's how so many deals went down the tubes.
That's for January's show, when we come to the transfer market all over again. It's going to be an interesting one, I'm sure. Gentlemen, we've done an hour and 50 minutes. Have you got anything else to add to tonight's show before we say good night?
I think we've covered everything.
I think we've covered quite a bit.
The vice captaincy battle narrows. Apparently, it's the players that pick the
captain, isn't it?
The player liaison team, whatever they're called, the leadership group, and that includes the captain, the vice captain. And the players were all had a vote. They had to put players in order 1, 2, 3, who they wanted to be vice captain. And all the votes have been counted, so we should find out shortly.
Very soon, yeah. It would have been.
Apparently, the short list is looking like it's going to be Fabian Schär, Joe Linton, Nick Pope, and Tonali.
Not Dan Burn.
No Dan Burn there.
Dan Burn's out the side now. Botman's took over.
The dead wood's coming. It's building. Anyway, yeah, he didn't bite for that one. He usually bites when
I think he fell asleep, to be honest.
Listen, Dan Burn's still the best defender we've got. End of story.
Whoa.
That's why he's playing for England.
That's what I said. You can't knock it because, like I say, we developed under Eddie Howe to play for England. Quality.
I might know a note, but I think Thomas Tuchel knows a thing or two.
See if you're still saying that after the World Cup.
I'm going to say I haven't been influenced by some of his football.
After the World Cup, somebody else might come along.
Anyway, that's for another show, I suppose. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the panel. Thank you, everybody in Viewerland, for smacking 100 likes. The mighty win.
Indeed.
Chief Clapper, we're back at 9:10 tomorrow for the presser. I'm sure that'll be another...
All NUFC gremlins permitting.
Yeah, exactly. If we can get a presser going, it just seems as though somebody keeps pressing the off button. Thank you, Andy Bokey. Very good, nice of you to join us.
Just a quickie there from Ginester. Disagree win. Botman is better. But hang on. If fit. Exactly.
Hey, listen,
the best ability is availability.
Let's get him in. He's on the bloody hook, I'll tell you now. Right then, gentlemen, thank you so much. It's a good night from them.
It's a good night from them and them.
Yeah, and it's till tomorrow morning.
How are the lads?
Lassies and Burns. Take care, everybody. Sleep well.
Ta-da.